Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Bizkit Club podcast. I thought with this being the first one that we should talk a little bit about identity. I think identity in business is super important because you kind of get a little bit of crossover, particularly if you are an entrepreneur and you're running your business as an individual. You will get a little bit of crossover with your personal identity and your business identity, and sometimes it can be difficult to separate the two and define the two exclusively. So I thought we could delve a little bit deeper into that and just give you some of my thoughts on it. So I do have my notes down here, so we'll go through those today. So I thought it would be a good idea to give you a little bit of a backstory in terms of my business. Now, within my business, the Bizkit Club, I had a completely different name beforehand. So it was called Chapter Digicraft. So if you're an OG with me, you'll remember the business being called that back in the day. And the reason I had the name change was because I found that with Chapter Digicraft, in terms of it being unique and original to me, it ticks that box. But in terms of it being something that people would search for, it's not necessarily something that would come up in a search for business advice, business guidance, business support. People also didn't know what it meant. That's because I kind of tried to put too much technicality into the name and tried to make it a little bit too niche. And as well, my logo, nobody knew what it was. So Chapter was meant to represent stories. So that's your brand story, business story, marketing story. Digit was meant to represent analysis. So that's the marketing and the number side of things and the strategy side of things within business. And then Craft was meant to represent the design elements that I bring to it and the creativity that I bring to it. And that's where I thought of the name. But I think the name was so, technical and niche that people just didn't know what it meant. And then the logo I kind of based on the Deathly Hallows symbol from Harry Potter. So I kind of had a pencil, a book, and a digit, a 0, to make my logo kind of similar to how the Deathly Hallows symbol is. And again, it was just too confusing for people to get. So I had that total rebrand, and in terms of the colour scheme, I went with green. Now, if you do, or if you know anything to do with colour theory, you know that green is, a colour that's commonly associated with growth, with nature, with natural, with organic, but it's also a colour that's associated with calming and, being natural, being organic, being authentic. So that's why I chose that colour for my business. So that's a little bit of background into my business identity. But then also, with me actually trying to grow a following and grow an identity and be recognised, on social media, in the online stratosphere and outside of the online market, I personally have found that I have sometimes been influenced by what others are doing and not necessarily inspired, and that's had an impact on my business to its detriment, because I kind of forgot to do what I teach other people in terms of develop your own brand strategy, find your own niche, know who you are. And I kind of got lost because I see other people doing a similar thing to what I do, and I say to myself, okay, they're doing that and that works really well for them. Maybe I should do that as well. And it was I was kind of implementing different strategies that weren't specific to my business, in terms of my style of delivery and my tone of voice, my business tone of voice, the fun kind of carefree, fuck it nature of that I like to bring to things. I wasn't putting that into my business in terms of the branding, the brand voice, the brand identity, all of that. So everything that I was putting out there was coming across really flat because it wasn't genuine and it wasn't authentic to me. And I think I kind of got in a place where I was bogged down and I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want to create content. I didn't want to work with clients anymore because I was lost and I didn't know who I was as a brand. Therefore, I didn't know what message I was sending. So I didn't know how to send these messages. So I kind of had to take a step back and kind of look at me as a person and say, what elements of me and what elements of the beliefs and the values that I want to have for my business do I want to put forward front and centre as part of the business branding? And the first thing is that I wanted to inspire people, but I wanted to inspire people in a way that made them want to take action with their own businesses and say, okay, yeah, Antonia's an everyday kind of person. Like we see her, running her business day to day in a similar nature to what I'm doing. If she can implement certain things and make certain changes and make her business successful, then so can I. And I think across social media, particularly Instagram and Facebook, we see all these success stories of entrepreneurs having these, 6-figure businesses and 4K weeks and have, thousands of clients, and they're just living the dream. And it kind of feels a little bit further away from what maybe is attainable for your business right now. And I can say to you, yeah, you can get consistent client bookings every day, and some days it might be 10 people booking and making inquiries, and some days it might be one person, but I do get those inquiries every day. And that for me, in terms of the consistency right now for my business, is the most important, making sure that every day somebody converts. And I think, these 6-figure days and these, 4-figure days and everything that you're hearing about on social media, it's not necessarily attainable. And I think it makes people want to go after something that might not necessarily be what their core value is in their business. So if you've started your business because you want to spend more time with your kids, because you want to be more creative, because you want to have the freedom to work your own hours, whatever the reason is, chasing those 4-figure days might not necessarily be in line with what you're trying to achieve and what your overall goal is. Maybe your overall goal is to work less and you need to chase the automation systems. Or maybe you want to work all the hours in the sun and under the sun, and you absolutely love it and enjoy it because you've got the opportunity to be creative and make things and inspire others. So maybe you want to chase ways of being more creative, of getting new inspiration, of innovating. And I think it's really important not to get lost if that's not what you're wanting, if money is not what you're chasing in terms of why you started your business. So I did go off on a little bit of a tangent there. And another thing I wanted to touch on was consistency. So that's consistency in your message and also consistency in your content. Now, if your branding, your brand identity, who your business is at its core hasn't been pinned down, then it's very easy for you to send mixed messages to your audience, because one day you're super serious, next day you're really fun, another day like you're just being sarcastic. The colours of your branding changes, the font changes, all of that changes, and you lose your consistency. And because you're not being authentic as well to your business, to you, to your branding, you lose the drive to be consistent, to post every day, to write those emails, to update the website, to upload to the website, to send those parcels out on time. All that has an effect on your business if you don't know who your business is. Similarly, if you're in kind of, a state within your personal life whereby you don't know who you are as a person, you don't know what you want to do, what kind of path you want to go down, what kind of mother you want to be, what kind of friend, partner, teacher, whatever your relationship is, if you don't know who you are at the core of that, then you can feel a bit lost and you can feel a bit demotivated, and all that can feed into your business as well. And the thing with the lack of consistency in terms of what your business looks like aesthetically is confusing to your audience. So if you have a business name and you are getting quotes and like content from places like Canva, and you've not pinned down your own individual branding, and you're just repurposing these templates, maybe you're changing the wording, but the colour scheme, like the feel, the vibe, the font, the imagery is not consistent to you and your business, then it doesn't help to get you recognition. And I'll give you an example. Virgin Holidays, we all know that they have the red and white logo. You can spot it. If you're in the airport and you're waiting for your flight to depart, you can see the tail of the plane and maybe know it's Virgin before you actually see it. Similarly with British Airways, they have that lady, the lady that's flying the British flag. You see her, you don't need to see the name, you know it's British Airways. It's consistently applied the same way on all of their planes, so that any plane you see, you know it's British Airways. Now, the same applies to your business branding. If you went into a shop, say you went into Zara, H&M, whatever it is, you consistently get the same labels on your clothing. You consistently get the same signage across stores. Any store you go into, you'll get the same signage, the same logo, similar sort of colour schemes throughout. carrier bags. The carrier bags or the packaging or the receipts, they will always be the same across all the different stores as well. And that is because they're consistently building that recognition through consistency. And that's the same sort of strategies you need to implement into your business. There's a statistic out there somewhere that says it takes 7 contacts with your customer, so 7 individual contacts with your customer before they build trust and recognition. So if each time your customer is seeing your content, seeing your packaging, seeing your social media posts, it's different, then you don't give that opportunity for them to get that consistent message 7 times, and that's where you fall off. So if you think of it in a day-to-day application, someone that either you've just met or you don't know very well, they tell you a story about themselves. And then the next time you see them, they tell you the same story or give you similar information, but it's tweaked a little bit, it's a little bit different. And the next time you see them, there's another difference in that story. And each time you're seeing them, there's these different differences and there's no consistency. Does that make you trust them as a person? And if the answer for you is no, then that is the same effects that not having the consistency in your branding and your message is having on your business towards your customers. So that's something to think of. Another thing is that once you have that trust, once you have the consistency, once you have the recognition, you will get the repeat sales from your customer or the repeat exposure from your customers or to your customers through, content sharing, recommendations, referrals, that sort of thing. And that helps you to build a legacy. Now, these businesses that that have been around for, hundreds of years, even sort of like 10, 20, 30 years, they have done so because they have remained consistent with their branding and their message in order to build the legacy. So I'll give you an example like Prada. Prada's been around for 100 plus years. And just by sticking that label on a t-shirt, people will spend obscene amounts of money for a plain black t-shirt because it's got a label on it, or a pair of black boots that potentially you could get a similar style somewhere else for a fifth of the price. But because it's got that Prada label on it, people are willing to spend larger sums of money because they're buying into that legacy, they're buying into that tradition, they're buying into the consistency, they're buying into the message. So that is something to think about for your business. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it is super important for you to have your consistency in your branding and establish a clear brand identity and have something to be known for. And it doesn't necessarily need to be like a groundbreaking project or it doesn't necessarily need to be a groundbreaking product where you've invented this thing and it's amazing. It could literally be your customer service is stellar year on year and people will keep coming back. Customers keep coming back to you because of the customer service that you offer. And they're willing to pay a premium for that service because you hit the mark every time. Or it could be your packaging, that creates an experience for your customer. It's something that, they want to open, they want to touch, they want to feel, they want to keep. It's not packaging that they throw away. It might, become like a display item. So think about what your business stands for, what the message is that you're trying to send, and how you're going to convey that message visually, and feed that into your branding to build something that is consistent, that has longevity, and that can build trust and a legacy. Okay, so that was the first one. I hope you enjoyed it. The next podcast is going to be on being more than one thing. So being like a multi-hyphen creative, being a multi-hyphen entrepreneur, and like the pros and cons of boxing yourself into one industry. As always, your feedback is welcome, to have said before, so please let me know how you find these podcasts. Do you like the visual aspect of it? Do you just want to hear me? Let me know. Okay, so the Bizkit Club podcast, episode 1, wrapped up. See you on the next one. Ta-ra.